There is only one way to add fluid effects to little plastic miniatures. And today I'm going to figure out what that one way is, as I test 3 different products to see which one is best. These 3 products will be tested for a variety of qualities, and the one winner of this showdown will be showcased on 3 Cthulhu Death May Die miniatures. Welcome to Treehane Miniatures. I got the idea for this video while shopping at Walmart of all places. I saw some shoe goo on an end cap for $5 and I thought I'd give it a go. I've always wondered if shoe goo would make a good alternative to Uhu glue for adding effects to miniatures, and shoe goo is much more readily available in the US than Uhu glue, and it's also about half the price. Uhu glue is decently priced, but I can only find it through online retailers. Finally, I take a look at Dirty Down Snot, coming in at a paltry $30 per ounce. What the heck? You know what else you can buy for $30 an ounce? Silver. Okay, I know that's a different kind of ounce. But still, that's approximately $1 per milliliter for Snot. To put that in perspective, it's like spending $750 on a bottle of booze. Would you spend $750 on a bottle of booze? I'm not saying that I would, but if I'm going to spend $1 per milliliter on anything, it might as well be a product that I know I'm going to enjoy my time with. But enough of me being a cheap bastard and bitching about the cost. Let's see how these things perform. Alright, today we're testing 3 products to see which one is the best way to add liquid effects to your miniatures. We have shoe goo, Dirty Down Snot, and Uhu glue. We're going to test these for overall working time, ease of use, clarity once it's dried, stiffness once it's dry, or flexibility if that's a preference you have. We're going to see if there's any sagging or pooling on the model as it dries. And we're going to see how well each of these products takes color mixed into it. And for that, I'm going to use some Daler Rowney fluorescent green ink. Our test models are going to be 3 scarecrows. I'm going to do a horizontal line of clear product, a vertical line of clear product, and then I'm going to do the same with the colored lines from the hand to the body for the horizontal, and from the hand to the base for the vertical. I have each miniature marked. Green will be for Snot, red will be for shoe goo, and black will be for the Uhu glue. I am going to start with the dark horse first, shoe goo. This comes in at $1.25 per ounce. This is the cheapest product of the 3 that we're testing today. Boy, is this stuff thick. I'm going to be using a toothpick for all of these. Start first here. That actually worked a lot better than I thought it was going to. I thought this was going to be the worst product by far. It appears it may already be drying, so the dry time or the working time on this one might not be as positive as the others. That one's so fine you can barely see it. Oops, and I've already mixed up my model. So green is going to be shoe goo. I'm silly. All right, I'll put out some fresh glue there. This feels very similar to when I've used Uhu glue in the past. So this is behaving weird when mixed with ink. Let's see if I'm even able to get some strands on here. Definitely gets a lot clumpier, a lot more clumpy when color is added. This one I would say kind of fails the color test. Next up, we have the Uhu glue, product I am very familiar with. And this stuff is not quite as thick as the shoe goo. It also wants to just keep coming out of the bottle. Much thinner than the shoe goo. Clarity and the thickness of the line is just about the same as the shoe goo. Also looks a little not quite as stiff, not as secure as the shoe goo. There's a lot of motion there. I don't know if you can see that motion on it as it vibrates. So we'll see which one has the durability. Next, I'll mix in a little color. I'm just gonna do a single drop. Both the shoe goo and Uhu glue seem to coagulate a little bit once the color's added, but I can see this is still a lot easier to work with than the shoe goo once the color's been added. Much easier to work with. And the Uhu glue comes in at about $2.50 per ounce, so twice the cost of the shoe goo per ounce. Last but not least, we have the Dirty Down Snot coming in at a whopping $30 per ounce. This is a half-ounce container, a little jar that costs $15. Right off the bat, I can tell you I'm not going to like working out of a jar as much as I do out of a squeeze bottle. And that's because, see, this top was already coated and dry. So I don't want to work out of an open container here. I'm going to move it over to the dish. And that's because I don't want this stuff to dry out. And from what I understand is it does dry fairly quickly as a short working time. So if you're working directly out of an open container, it's going to dry out. It's going to dry out sooner. It'll probably dry out before you get through it all. So that is one advantage that both of the other containers have, is that they are squeeze tubes and there's no air trapped inside once the lid is put back on. And this stuff is a bit thicker, so we're going to start with the horizontal. And when I said it didn't have much working time, I wasn't kidding. It's already dried. Already having difficulty spreading it. I kind of thought this was going to be the winner, clearly. I'm going to change my plan and actually work out of the container, which I think is a really bad idea for this product, but we're going to try it. Got one. Got another one. All right, let's mix some fluid into this, which I'm going to have to do in a jar or in a dish. I'm fighting with it. Oh geez, come on. It's already feeling pretty thick. Yeah, the working time on this thing is already done. That was me, I did that. I accidentally touched that little guy right there. But you can see it's already dry to the touch. The color does look cool on there. I just think you would have to act very fast to get it. See if I can do it by hand maybe. This is already dry. Well, we do have a vertical on there, so I'll just leave that. It looks good. It looks nice and crystal clear. It has more body to it, more thickness to the band than the other two. Alright, it's been a couple of days since I added the effects to our Scarecrow miniatures here. And this first guy, this is the Snot. And if you remember when I was putting it on, I said it went on pretty thick, meaning each band of goo is pretty thick on here. Now, the one thing that I did notice though is that it is incredibly stiff and it feels very durable. I've never had issues with Uhu glue coming off, but I can see that if you're painting a miniature or putting an effect on a miniature that's going to be handled a lot for gameplay, that this is definitely a positive of the Snot. I didn't like working with the Snot. It seemed like it dried up very quickly, and I didn't have much control over how thick or thin this line would end up being. And by thick, I mean these are some giant miniatures. So if I show you this guy compared to a 28mm miniature, these Scarecrows are quite large. So this is a 28mm miniature from the game Nemesis, and you can see it's quite larger, quite a bit larger. So you can see if I was going to put this goo on a 28mm miniature, it would have almost an overwhelming effect on a smaller miniature, just because of how thick it is. And I also don't feel that it took the color very well. It's not uniform throughout, had a hard time mixing it. And then not only is the color not distributed uniformly throughout, but when spreading it, it seems like it was thicker at the point where the color was inside the Snot there. Something else I want to do is I want to open up the bottle of Snot and see what that bunch of Snot ended up as on the top. So we're going to look, because I took the lid off for just a little bit. It looks pretty good inside. Looks pretty good. Maybe a slight film, but it looks very usable still. I was kind of worried about that. I can see it hardened all up around here when I put the lid back on, but still very good inside there. So that's a positive. And again, to demonstrate the durability, maybe I will see if it can hang by this. Yeah, so you see it can hang by this. It just wants to slide down. Yeah, it holds the weight. The Snot actually holds the weight of the miniature. Kind of hard to show because it wants to slide off, but it's also holding this metal contraption, the full weight of the metal. Just a little bit of give where I set the metal on it, but very durable. That piece broke, it just didn't stay adhered right there. Not a big deal. Next up, we have the Shoe Goo miniature. This one was a surprise for me. I really liked how thin of a line you can get. Let me see if I should hold that above white. That is a super thin line of effect, and it's still kind of rubbery. It's got some good flex to it. It doesn't feel like it's going to break off, and it's secure. Yeah, that's not going anywhere. It just moves a lot. I don't think that having flex in there is a bad thing, though. Yeah, some nice flex. It's sturdy where it's thicker. No unusual pooling. And the same with this. I did not like the way it took color. it didn't seem to be evenly distributed, and even right here on this band, it's almost completely clear. You can see how I really had to work to get it to initially stick. Put some pretty good globs on there to get it to stick and to finish it. See if I can show that color better on top of black here. But these are some much finer lines that it looks like we can get. So again, if you were going to use it like on a smaller miniature, the finer lines might be more suitable. And again, this is the shoe goo, and this is $1.25 per ounce. Our final effect medium is the Uhu glue. So this is kind of in between in thickness. I do notice some bubbling in here. And again, it's flexible just like the shoe goo. But this one here took the color so much better than the other two. It uniformly distributed within the medium, and it was very easy to spread on the miniature. This was my favorite one to use as far as how it felt using it. You can see there's not like a much residue up here. I was able just to touch the toothpick to the location where I wanted to initiate the drool or whatever the effect is, and then finish it pretty smoothly and cleanly also. I'm not sure what that bubbling is on this because there isn't any on this. They all seem fairly sturdy. I mean, for how thin this is, it moves, but it's not breaking under the weight of this metal instrument. But you can see it does bend and give a little more than the Snot does. And once again, I'll show it alongside a 28mm miniature, just so we can kind of see how that would impact. It's actually touching. So probably more appropriate for small miniatures. As far as the feel of use, I feel like the Uhu glue was the best of the three for how much working time it gave me and how smooth it felt to work with. It was very easy to pick up onto a toothpick and very easy to finish and pull the toothpick away at the termination point. This was the easiest to work with, was the Uhu glue by far. So I'm gonna go back to Snot, and this is again $2.50 an ounce. The Snot was $30 an ounce. Not much difference as far as like the bubbling that you see in there. The Snot is a lot stiffer though. So I think that's a definite positive of the Snot. But all the other positives I think go to Uhu. Unless you want a very thin strand, like a spider web or something. You can see the difference. The one on the left is the shoe goo. And the shoe goo makes some very clean and very fine lines. I mean, if you're looking for some very fine spiderweb type details and effects, this shoe goo is really good for that. I just would not try adding color to it. I also like how shoe goo and Uhu glue both have tubes that dispense the product from, so that when you're done dispensing and you put the cap on, there's no trapped air in there and it's not going to dry out within the container. I've had this bottle of Uhu glue since I think 2019, so this is 6 years old and it still works as good as the day I got it. Alright, so I was going to pick a winner and then add it to some Cthulhu Death May Die miniatures, but I might use the Snot on a few miniatures and I might use the Uhu glue on some other miniatures. I want to do Shogoth, I want to do the Dole, Monstrous Frog, and possibly the White Polypus thing. So let's get started with that. Alright, first up, I am going to apply Snot to the mouth of Dole here. And I do have some thoughts on the proper way to apply this stuff. Not necessarily in the technical application, but in the artistic presentation. I feel like if you're going to do a mouth, something that's on a single hinge like this, and you're stretching between upper and lower jaw, that they should be lined up from the points where the mouth would open at the bottom, say, and if it's dragging saliva or spreading saliva between the lower jaw and upper jaw, it's probably going to do it in some straight lines, maybe some film going across the bottom before it goes back up on this side. What I don't like, and I think looks awkward, is when you have a single hinge item like this, like a mouth, and individuals take the saliva and stretch it from one side to the other. I think that looks a little odd. I mean, it can happen if it's particularly sticky saliva, where it's running across the bottom here and maybe detaches from this side and snaps up to a straight line going sort of diagonal. But for the most part, I feel like they should be in line with the hinge, so to speak. Alright, so for this guy, I am going to use Snot. And I'm going to work it straight out of the jar, and I am going to try to get a fine amount and do some thinner lines with this. And I feel like the tongue might get in the way a little bit here. So let's just start with the tongue here. Let's just touch it to the tongue. So something I've noticed also when I've seen other people doing this is they tend, like particularly with the gore, is they, instead of touching it like I'm trying to do, they wrap it around like the sword or whatever they're trying to add the gore to. And I don't think that looks right, but it might be necessary. See how quickly this is breaking? Because it's kind of drying out a little bit. And I'm trying to use a finer amount. And I'm working quick. I'm dipping this straight into the jar and then I'm pulling it out and just touching it to the Dole's mouth here. Just doesn't really want to stick. And it could be that I'm just so used to using Uhu glue and that this is how I do Uhu glue, that that's what's causing my issue. But I'm gonna switch real quick to Uhu glue and see if I can fix this a little bit. One thing about Uhu glue though, once it starts coming out, it's a little hard to stop. Took some with me. All right, let's try the Uhu glue. Dip, touch, and stretch. Then we spin and spin. Take it across to the other side there, like I said. Touch it to that. Take it up to there. So much easier to work with. And I still have plenty of it. And I'm just continuing to work with the same dip right here. Get that little clump out of there. Do a little cross-contamination between the tongues here. Yeah, this stuff, I mean, this is 1/10 the price of Snot, and it is so much easier to work with. I've only done one miniature, and I feel like Uhu glue is the clear winner here. Let's try another miniature. Now we've got Shogoth. Get that mouth all jacked up there. Some saliva. I don't know what this is. It could be a mouth. And I'm still using the exact same batch, though it is drying out a little bit. See, it's getting a little sticky. Here, I just want to go crazy and make it look all disgusting and slimy and spider webby. This one I want to look much more haphazard than the Dole did. There you go. All disgusting and funky. Looks perfect. All right, next up, I'm going to continue with the Uhu glue. This is the clear winner. Clear winner. I'm going to add some color to it, and we're going to see what else we can do here. All right, and now I'm going to do basically the same thing, but this time I'm going to add a little green ink to the Uhu glue. And what I like about the clarity of the Uhu glue is that I only need to add 1 drop of the ink usually. I don't know, that's a pretty good glob of glue right there. I'm just going to start with 1 drop and see what that gives us. Out of the 3 products that I tested, the Uhu glue also seems to take the color the best. I mean, it blends right in, it doesn't coagulate, it doesn't get weird, it's still nice and stringy and sticky. So let's see what we can do with this monstrous frog here. Down to the ground. Making a mess. And making a mess. Sort of an odd sculpt to try to take this down to the bottom because the sculpt of the frog sticks out past the base. So taking it down to the base is just a bit odd. That's gonna make a nice little appearance right there. Looks kind of cool. Try to clean some of that up. It's kind of cool the way it looks like it's oozing over the edge of the base there. I'll clean some of that base up before I take photos of it. Yo, what do you think? Next, I'm gonna do the same thing, the white polypus thing here. I don't like that one, so I'm gonna remove this. It removes fairly easy, and I'm just kind of having some fun here. See what all I can come up with. So again, I am going to say that as far as ease of work with, the most versatility, how fun it is to work with, the Uhu glue blows Snot away and outdoes the shoe goo as well. So after watching me struggle to use Snot effectively like some poorly produced infomercial, what are your thoughts on these products? Do you have any tips for me? Like maybe I need to move to a more humid climate so that things don't dry out the second they hit the atmosphere here. There is definitely no substitute for Uhu glue when it comes to adding color to this effect, but I'll continue to work with the other 2 products to see if I can improve the results for the clear effects. Thank you so much for watching. Please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel to join our growing community of sticky fingers.